Hey guys, I got a ton of great comments from my last video on the industrial and multifamily video. So me and my team, we picked out 5, 6, 7 questions and we're gonna run through them. So first question came from Dave. Which asset classes, example, multifamily, industrial, or office, are currently undervalued or overhyped? I would say that the overhyped for sure, I believe, was industrial. For many years, you couldn't find a vacant industrial building. They were being occupied the minute they hit the market. And for good reason. We had a ton of people moving into Florida, and we had a ton of goods and services that needed to be sold, and these industrial buildings were now in a high demand. What people really didn't take into account is that our economy is like the weather. It can go from sunny to a tornado in a minute. So that's what's going on right now, and it's been going on for a while. And when I say that's what's going on, what I'm saying is that you can see the signs of the US being in a bad economy. And I felt that in 2016, 17, right in there, you can feel that our real estate market was not right and that things were overinflated. Okay, so now I'm starting to understand why these things were overinflated. We got the REITs, we got the private equity firms, and so forth and so on. So I hope I answered your question. On the office building, we know what's going on with office buildings, but I actually think that with Trump being in office and asking people to come back to work, that's going to really help even private owners on the office side. And am I willing to take that risk and buy an office building right now? If I was in that market, I probably would once it crashes, because I honestly think that people are going to go back to work. I feel that it was nice to stay home and work from home, but we're noticing that these troubled office buildings need to get occupied. And I think that for humans that work at home, it was good till it wasn't good. But I hear a ton of good and bad things of working from home. But anyhow, I really think that people are going to start going back to the office. And then on the multifamily side, I love multifamily because multifamily is always occupied. The only thing you have to be careful with multifamily is that you don't oversupply buildings in a certain area. You don't want to have 20,000 units built in a county and there's not a demand for that amount of units in a county. That's the only thing that really hurts multifamily, is an overbuild of them. Besides that, when you go into stabilized neighborhoods where you got these buildings, these multifamily buildings that have been in the neighborhood for 30, 40, and 50 years, they're stabilized, guys. As long as there's a good management team behind them, they will continue to stay rented. So multifamily for me is always number one. I love multifamily. Let's go to John's question next. How do you define a strategic real estate deal in today's market? For me, is finding value. So if you want to be strategic, you have to look at this asset class, whichever asset class it is. It could be retail, multifamily, industrial, office, whatever you like. You have to look at it and you have to see how you can bring value to this asset. Is there something that you can do to bring value to that asset? Because in today's market, we already know that these properties are overvalued. We know that these properties are getting ready to be handed back to the bank. We know that rates are about to mature and their payments are going to double and triple. We know the taxes have already doubled and tripled. We know it's just a mess. There's a ton of things going on. So anyways, strategic is just hold on to your money. Make sure that if you decide to spend your money on an asset class, make sure that asset class has been deflated before you get into the market and buying. Let's go to Scott's question. How do you position your portfolio to hedge against economic downturns? And this is a really good question. For me, I like to keep low debt. You keep low debt, and to me, you have two different types of investors. You got investors that believe in high debt, high rewards, nothing against them. And then you got investors like me that it's my money. I'm not using anyone else's money. And I've learned that the only true thing that really works is low debt or no debt. And if I'm going to go into debt, is because I'm going to borrow $1.5 million to buy an asset for $3 million that had a loan on it for $30 million. At that point, I don't mind taking a loan out for $3 million on that asset class because I know that I'm going to get my money back in 2 to 3 years. I don't know if I just confused you guys, but basically what I'm trying to say is that debt is good for the right asset and for the right price. You want to make sure that you get your money back on this asset anywhere between 2 to 3 years, 4 years max. Okay, guys? So how do I hedge against our downturns? Is low debt. Low debt. I believe in low debt. Question from Gary. How do you evaluate whether to sell, refinance, or hold a property? For me, it's simple. If you're getting top dollar for that unit, so let me give you an example. If I'm getting $1,200-$1,300 in rent for a unit, right? And I got someone that's trying to pay me $100,000 a door, for me, that's a good deal. That's a good deal. I'm getting great value. $100,000 a door. I'm trading $100,000 for $1,200 a month. I'd take that $100,000 all day long. Okay. So if you're asking me, when do I know on multifamily? It depends on your rent, right? If you're getting $1,600, then I'd probably want 130, 140 a door. If you're getting $2,000, then I'd probably want 150 a door. And that's in today's market as a seller, right? As a buyer, I would never pay you that. But since we have these beautiful private equity firms that really don't do their research, I'll take their money. So when do I know when to refinance? For me, I did a ton of refinancing in my younger days. And I made these refinance cash outs so I can jump back into the market and buy another deal, okay, guys? So if you're asking me when should you refinance, I'd probably do, instead of a refinance, because you don't want to lose that great rate that you have, I'd probably do an equity line of credit. And how equity line of credit works is really simple. A HELOC, equity line of credit, is really simple. You get your property appraised, and whatever equity you have in the property, they give you 80 or 90% of that in a line of credit. So let me just give you a small example. You got $100,000 in equity. So now the bank is going to give you an $80,000 equity line of credit. And what that means is that you have access to $80,000, guys. So what do you pay on that 80,000? You only pay on it when you use it, okay? So if you use $5, then you pay interest on the $5 that you use. If you borrow 20,000 from your equity line of credit, if you pull out 20,000 for your equity line of credit, then you pay interest on the 20,000 that you pulled out. What does an equity line of credit look like? How do you get your money? The same way how you write a check. It's a checkbook. They're going to give you a checkbook and you write a check. And you can make a payment with a check, or you can jump online and make a payment, but it's an account that has 80,000 sitting in the bank for you. So in today's market, I'd get an equity line of credit and I'd just hold on to it. So when these $2,000 deals pop up or these $3 million deals pop up, you can go ahead and buy one of these asset classes. That's really when I look into refinancing. Otherwise, I'm typically not interested in refinancing at all. I just do equity lines of credit. And on the refinancing side, if we're talking specifically about refinancing, the only time I refinance is if I'm going to lower the rate and it's going to make sense on covering all the closing costs that come with refinancing, because there's a ton of closing costs that come in with the refinancing. And just keep in mind that if you have a 30-year loan and you refinance, your whole 30 years begins again. The clock starts again. Okay, guys? So keep refinancing in mind. And then on holding a property, I like holding properties. It depends on the actual asset class, but I like holding properties, especially when they're paid and they're bringing me money. That's when I like holding property. Most of my properties have a commercial line of credit on them. And what that means is there's a regular line of credit on the residential side and there's a line of credit on the commercial side. Since I'm on the commercial side of things in real estate, my properties have a commercial line of credit. My commercial line of credit has not been touched in the last 6 years. It's just waiting to be touched when this market crashes. So if you find value on any information that I just gave you, please leave me a comment. I enjoy answering your questions. Not only that, it forces me to dig in a little and find some data for you guys. So anything that you guys have in mind, send me a comment. If you like what I'm giving you, smash the like button and subscribe.